When it gets too snowy or icy, Hampton Roads Transit, the transit agency serving the Hampton Roads region of Virginia, implements its snow routes. The light rail and ferry still run, but every single bus route in the system's network stops running. So how am I able to board this bus? Or this bus? Let's explore Hampton Roads Transit's snow routes on a few rides through Newport News. Alright, let's explain some context. Hampton Roads Transit, or HRT, has the largest variety of transit modes of any transit agency in the Commonwealth of Virginia, with bus, ferry, and light rail transit, as well as paratransit and on-demand microtransit services. On a normal day, all of these modes can be seen around the region, but when it snows enough, specifically when the forecast is for between 2 and 6 inches of snow, the agency's snow routes are implemented. For the entire network, this means a shortened service day, with service starting later in the day and ending earlier in the evening than normal. It also means no microtransit or paratransit. And while the Elizabeth River Ferry actually maintains its 30-minute frequencies, the Tide Light Rail's frequencies are reduced to this half-hourly level, but both routings stay the same. So far, this at least makes some sense. But let's get back to that intro. It's true, every single bus route of HRT's network does not run when snow routes are implemented. But that doesn't mean there aren't any buses. On snow route days, a completely separate route map and schedule are used, with different line numbers, different line routings, and only hourly frequencies. But HRT doesn't just pull this network out of nowhere. Essentially, the snow route map is made up of 23 lines that are consolidations of, replacements for, or reroutings of different regular lines onto routes that follow major roads that are more likely to be safely passable and plowed. So at our starting bus stop, there's no 106 or 107 like there normally would be, but rather the 506, which has no signs for it anywhere at the bus stop.
Hello, on a slightly wintry day from outside of Christopher Newport University on Warwick Boulevard. I'm joined by Cole Thompson from the Transit YouTube channel, Cole Thompson. We're going to be taking Hampton Roads Transit's snow buses, which only run when they're running a snow schedule. So normally this stop, as you can see behind me, is served by the 106 and 107, which come once an hour each. However, today only the 506 is running, which only runs on snow days during the snow schedule. And HRT has a general idea of when the bus gets here, but they don't do live tracking because they couldn't just run the 106. No, it has to be the 506, which is the 106 with like a couple changes. But we're gonna be riding this and seeing what it's like to ride a bus agency or a transit agency's network that has a completely different network on a snow day.
I mean, the reason why they're doing this is because there's ice, not because there's snow. We really didn't get any snow.
There is in fact ice.
It's just ice. But the ice is kind of fine now.
Yeah, but they've already changed the schedule.
Yeah.
So as you can see, the road is for the most part totally fine. The bus stop's a little icy, but I'm really not that concerned. Like, I think they could have totally run the normal buses today. However, this is US 60, which, I mean, this would be a pretty high priority for plowing and, treating. So I'm not sure exactly what all the side streets look like. But as for Warwick Boulevard, looks totally fine. So hopefully our bus gets here soon because it is cold out. All right, so Cole, what's a problem with this bus stop here?
There's no shelter. There's no shelter. And look, this bench has icicles on it.
So basically not the 106, the 506, which is the snow variant, should be coming by at around 3:20 something-ish. HRT's website just literally predicts approximate time for the bus arrivals. So if we don't see something here, what's really nice is there's a bus stop uptown right across the street. We're waiting for the downtown bus, which I think is supposed to get here earlier, but not by much. So if we see an uptown bus coming, I think we're just gonna try to cross the street and get that, because there is not much certainty with the buses today. I haven't even seen one yet. Granted, I have been inside most of the day because it's been freezing cold. But yeah, will we get a bus? Stay tuned. Alright, so we are off on the snow route. As you can see, it is an icy wonderland out there. Look at that. Beautiful Ferguson Center. CNU, really good job with the architecture with it. That's a nice little concert hall. CNU's got great buildings. If you're ever in town, come visit campus. It's pretty cool.
So now that we're on board and have verified that this bus actually exists, we have a tentative plan. Ride the 506 down Warwick Boulevard to the Newport News Transit Center downtown, transfer to the 512 up Jefferson Avenue to Denby, and then get the 506 back down Warwick to take us back to where we started. Again, note that these buses stick to major roads, cutting many potentially icy deviations off of these roads, as Warwick and Jefferson are the two main streets in the city, and both were pretty much completely clear of snow and ice on the day we were filming. The 506 and 512 are rough replacements of the 106 and 112, but neither route follows its non-snow route sibling exactly. Some sections of the 506 look more like the 107 than the 106. And in the case of the 512, a good portion of the 112's route just isn't served by the 512, and the northwestern portion of the snow route actually absorbs some of the normal 108 into its routing as well.
This intersection is always so weird to me. It's like a Y intersection around a hearing aid place. I don't get it. Then again, this street is so weird. But back in the day, this is where the streetcar ended.
It's also asymmetric. It's 2 lanes on this side, 3 lanes on that side.
All right, we have entered Hilton Village. They have a Hilton Creamery, though. That's a phenomenal ice cream if you're ever in the area. Behind me, Cole is filming the train that's across the street because this route parallels the CSX Peninsula sub the entire way downtown. All right, pulling away from the 75th, there's the 514, another snow route. The rare bus sighting today, as there aren't many buses out. Overall, we're making pretty good time passing the Newport News shipyard. Probably one of the major route generators, ridership generators along the line. And it appears they are operating today. Their parking lot is full. Well, at least partially full. So maybe they have a reduced staff, reduced work, not sure.
You know, who would have known? If you're running buses and there's less cars on the road, the buses run faster.
And when you take away deviations. I love the architecture of this neighborhood. It's phenomenal. I mean, it's just got character. Wraparound porches in some of these houses. Just, you know, good little classic Americana right here. Then again, this neighborhood was built like 1920s. So there very much was streetcar service back here back in the day. The rare sight continues. There are more buses, and they all start with 5 or 2. Because north side bus routes got a 5 designation for snow routes, and south side got 2.
Alright, so let me explain that statement. HRT has a pretty intuitive route numbering scheme, and a route's line number tells you a lot about where it goes and about its stopping pattern. 1 and 2 digit route numbers are reserved for local bus routes on the south side of Hampton Roads, serving Norfolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach. Route numbers like 1, 20, 29, etc. The one exception to this is the 90, which, being the official route number for the Elizabeth River Ferry, is quite obviously not a bus. On the north side of Hampton Roads, on the peninsula, local bus routes have 3-digit line numbers starting with 1, things like the 106 and the 112. Limited run routes on the north side use 3-digit numbers starting with 4, like the 415. And finally, line numbers for regional express buses on both sides of Hampton Roads use 3 digits starting with 9, like the 961 between Newport News and Norfolk. And if your route number is 800, congratulations, you're on the Tide. So of course, if the snow route plan is in place, none of these buses run, though many are consolidated into or replaced by snow routes, if at all. Snow routes usually partially take on the number of one of the bus routes they fully or partially replace or parallel, having 3-digit numbers starting with 2 or 5. Buses starting with 2 are south side routes, so the 1 becomes the 201, the 20 becomes the 220, and so on. The 29 randomly becomes the 209 instead of the 229, I don't know why, and the 961 becomes the 261, but whatever. North side bus routes, on the other hand, start with 5. The 106 becomes the 506, the 112, the 512, etc. But these routes are not necessarily the same as their relative regular routes. They may or may not skip deviations, use different streets, skip transfer stations, or simply not go as far. Or they might just leave the route entirely. So they're definitely not always the same bus routes, but they seem to be at least somewhat similar.
So what's fun is the 261 is running today, which is the snow route equivalent of the 961, which is the Newport News Hampton Norfolk Express bus. So apparently HRT views that as important enough to run when they're running almost like most of their network's not running, but they're still running that Cross River Express bus. That is a testament to how important that thing is, because it's the only like all-time bus that connects. I mean, there are other buses, but they're either peak only or directional or something like that. But the 961, aka the 261 on the snow route day, super important. All right, there's the 261, which we're actually not transferring to. I feel like half the time I'm down here, I'm getting on the Cross River bus.
For me, it's more.
501. But we were waiting for the 512 because, I mean, we could cross the river. Oh, look, it's right in front of us. 512 is here. It's not focusing, but that's the 512. We don't want to cross the river probably because we just too high of a risk we get stranded over there.
This thing's end at 8.
Yes. All right, we're transferring from the 506 snow route to the 512. All right, we are pulling away from downtown on the 512, not the 112, because there is no 112 today. No longer exists for these 24 hours, and nothing ran yesterday, so Canadians feel free to laugh at the South's reaction to snow, or lack thereof. I mean, this is totally fine, but, you know, some of the things are still very icy. Some places are better prepared than others. So if any Montreal bus drivers from like STM, RTL, any of those agencies, if you want to come down, operate some buses,
Operate some Gilligs.
Operate some Gilligs. This is true. All right, gotta stop for the railroad crossing. I believe this is where Amtrak used to turn around, right?
Yeah, they had to go down.
Yeah, because this is the only Y for mile. Yeah, that's the spur track off the Y. Hey Cole, guess what?
What?
Because we're going up Jefferson, you know what we're gonna pass 3 of?
Waffle
We're gonna
House?
pass all 3 Waffle Houses.
So side note, we are actually going to pass only 2 of the Waffle Houses. The 512 does pass the 3rd one, but we would have missed our stop if we rode that far.
Well, we are skipping a deviation here. So normally the 112 deviates down Mercury Boulevard for a bit, but I believe the 512 just goes straight across and doesn't stop, which saves time.
McDonald's number 1.
McDonald's, no, this is, well, there's one McDonald's we just barely missed on Jefferson, so this is the 2nd McDonald's on Jefferson. Walmart, 1 of 3. So one of the benefits of having green waves timed for cars, so meaning like all the traffic lights will be green so cars can just kind of keep going. Jefferson and Warwick both have that in Newport News and they're timed very well. The benefit of that is the buses also just kind of move. They just fall. So the 112, 108, 106, 107 for the segments they're on Warwick and or Jefferson, they just zoom. Waffle House number 1 of Jefferson Avenue. Taco Bell 2 of Jefferson. All right, Wawa 1 of Jefferson Avenue. We're just gonna keep track of how many, I don't even know how many things we're keeping track of. Here is Walmart number 2 of Jefferson Avenue.
Let it be known that this is just a neighborhood market.
True, but it's a pretty extensive neighborhood market.
Note that we're not counting the 7-Elevens. There is a reason why we are not counting the 7-Elevens. We would very likely get the count incorrect.
So Cole, you were saying this is the reason why we're not counting 7-Elevens.
That was one like 700 feet ago. And
Yeah, there's another one. So we are getting beg buttons at this intersection. That's new. Before you just kind of had to go when the light was green. That's good. That's an improvement, Newport News. Good job. They're not even turned on yet.
They put in a new curb cut.
Nice. All right, we got Waffle House number 2 on Jefferson Avenue. Yes, this is another deviation we skip. Normally, I think this does deviate an efficient point. So this will deviate closer to City Center, which is that, you know, pretty dense development over there.
Here's the thing. That woman who just got on, she was asking like, hey, does this make the deviation? Or she was asking like, hey, if I go to, you know, City Center or whatever, like, where do I get off? Basically,
Here.
you have to say, yeah.
You get off here and walk. We're not counting them, but there's a 7-Eleven across the street. See, this is great. We're just getting all the green lights. I mean, being on a bus on Jefferson when there's not rush hour is a very nice experience. Walking on Jefferson is not a nice experience. 7-Eleven, which we're not counting, but there's Wawa number 2. Right there. What is this, McDonald's 2, but technically 3?
Yeah.
McDonald's 2 that we've seen, but there's at least 3 that on Jefferson. And there's Costco, which there's only 1 of. All right, Taco Bell number 3 on Jefferson, right? Yes. Taco Bell number 3. And here's another deviation we skip. We skip the entire Patrick Henry Mall Transit Center, which is not served today at all, which is normally a huge transfer station in this part of Newport News. But today, we just don't serve it. The mall looks open though. All right, Walmart number 3. We just missed the sign, but that is the 3rd and final Walmart on Jefferson. There's the airport, which looks open, judging by how many cars are going down there. And we leave Jefferson. So we've now adopted the route of the 108, just for funsies, because it's a snow route. We combine routes. but we don't deviate into the train station, which is around the corner, but we just stop here, so.
Okay, around the corner is a little bit of an understatement.
A
It's like
5-minute walk. It's a very long driveway.
It's a very long walk.
Alright, we are getting off the 512 in Denby, aka a thing that very could be a nice little downtown if they tried. Hey guys, Taco Bell number 4, except this isn't Jefferson Avenue anymore, but point has been made. All right, Cole's gonna do a bus stop review.
Bus stop review, I believe, on the entire HRT system, at least on the peninsula. I know for a fact it's at least on the peninsula. It's the only sideways facing shelter. And
Outside of like a transit center or something weird.
Yeah.
And even on most of those, if not all.
Standalone.
Yeah.
It's got lights, illuminated. At
No
night.
heaters,
Very
though.
Nice, very nice. Well, it doesn't normally get that cold down here.
No, it doesn't.
Sometimes it does. We have a trash compacting.
Does it open? Is it frozen shut? It's open.
It's open.
It's thinking about freezing
I
shut.
can't
though.
imagine these solar panels are very effective right now.
No, not at all. And normally,
Sidewalk up to the street to board the bus.
yes, except we got off there.
There. In the puddle.
Yeah.
In the puddle.
All right, so we got off the 512. It is very cold out, so the next bus downtown, which we need, is the 506, which will be coming at 5:03 p.m., which is a while from now. However, that northbound 506 that will become the southbound, it's going to come by in a few minutes, supposedly, if it's not late or early, because there's no live tracking today, because they don't even know what the snow routes are themselves. So if that bus does come by, we're going to see if we can get on it, see if we can ride through the terminus, which goes around 3 cloverleaf ramps to turn around, which that'll be fun if the driver lets us on. It's going to be the same driver as before.
But it will be the same driver.
Yes, because we saw him
left at
at...
the same
Yes. So...
But that does answer the question, what gets here faster for this one very particular day?
Yes, on normal days, the fastest way up here is the 107, because it makes no deviations. However, that's not running. And today, because the 512 made no deviations, the 112 usually makes multiple. It would not be faster, probably. The 107 is the straight shot up and down Warwick.
Yeah.
So this shopping cart has been here for a minute. It's frozen into the ground. Yeah, it's not totally frozen, but it's there's ice holding it down. Update, we're on that bus.
So yes, we got on an outbound 506, which, again, this bus will become the inbound 506 later.
Alright, another McDonald's. Just goes to show you how suburban Newport News is. This is, if I were in charge of transit planning, this is where I would end the Breeze light rail. You should go watch that video if you haven't already. Because that massive parking lot can just be redeveloped into urbanism. So we asked the driver if he's eventually going southbound, which he is. One, we don't want to wait 20 minutes in the cold. Is that really the reason? No, because we want to do the really silly deviation that this does at the end of the route, one way. And he's going to let us stay on, so that'll be fun. When was this a Taco Bell?
At some point, I think that's
That-
what Taco Bell used to be.
Oh. Yeah, so per Cole, this is a old Taco Bell. This whole intersection is abandoned. I don't know why. It's Pizza Sam, aka the best pizza in Newport News. Go there. Not sponsored, but I mean, I will shout them out because it took me forever to find good pizza in Newport News. Yet another McDonald's, and there was a food line across the street. Taco Bell, add to the counter. Alright, that was the last stop. But we are staying on because the driver is being super chill. We'd otherwise have to cross and wait for the bus to come south. But we're just gonna go around the whole deviation. I think he knows we're bus foaming. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Alright, exit ramp 1 of turning around.
So normally, the regular routes 106 and 108 that run in this section of Warwick Boulevard terminate at Fort Eustis and Lee Hall respectively, but the 506 doesn't go to either of those places. Instead, it turns around via 4 different exit ramps on 2 different interchanges. Quite an interesting way to eliminate a U-turn or a 3-point turn somewhere. Now, if you ask me, they probably could have just run these buses up to Lee Hall and interchanged with WADA, but you know what? I'm just glad we have bus service at all because the region down here freaks out with our snow, so.
But we have to turn around via this Cloverleaf interchange. because normally the 106 deviates into Fort Eustis, goes on base, and turns around there. You know, it's a good thing. It's a, it's a huge employer. Good to serve that. I think you need ID to go in there, but because they're not running on base today, we do this funky deviation. So. Oh, and look at that. We're not picking anyone up at that first stop. Wawa number 3. We did not get this Wawa. I did not see this on the way up. This is actually, if you're coming from closer to downtown on Warwick, right here, there's a bus stop. There it is. And this is actually the easiest and quickest way to get to the train station. Maybe not the easiest, it's the quickest way. It doesn't swing you into the train station like the 108 does, but the buses are more frequent and they're faster and don't deviate and don't have as much padding in their schedule. So it's a net positive time-wise if you use these buses. Shout out the Taco Bell across the street. This is Taco Bell number 6. I don't know. All right, we got off the bus at Warwick and Glendale because Chick-fil-A. So we're gonna get Chick-fil-A. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed us riding the snow bus routes, like, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to Cole. Any final thoughts? Or food time?
I'm hungry.
Okay. All right, we're gonna eat. So we'll see y'all in the next one.
All in all, I think the snow routes make sense. By staying on the main roads, these routes make sure service is possible even when there is some, but not too much, winter weather. But is running a completely different set of routes the most practical way to run service when the roads aren't clear to snow and ice completely? Well, maybe. The unique numbering system means that HRT can replace multiple regular routes with the same snow route, while the snow route will retain the flexibility to leave regular routes to stay on the main roads, or take on part of another regular route to serve destinations that might otherwise get left out of the snow route pattern. Now you could just pick a few essential bus lines and simply run those with like an S suffix or something for snow, like a 112S, but let me know what you think of all this in the comments. I know I enjoyed writing the snow routes, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, and or subscribe if you are so inclined, and subscribe to Cole too, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your week.